Hi Eileen, lovely to see you.
And lovely to see you today too, Siobhan. How are you?
I'm good, Eileen. Let me just ask you a quick question. Are things back to normal yet?
Siobhan, what is normal now? Because normal as we all knew it is essentially, will it ever come back to that? Like, I think when you ask that question, are things back to normal? I think we nearly need to reframe that and say, are we getting used to our new normal?
Hmm. Yeah, Eileen, I suppose I was just curious to ask you that question because as we're coming out of lockdown now, I really feel a little bit afraid that things are moving too quickly back towards what was normal for us. And that's really not where I want things to go.
Mm.
And I'd be a little bit afraid of the pace as well.
Yeah, no, I very much agree with you. And I found myself saying to a few people, you know, my concern is that we're going to get back to where we were and end up locked down or whatever. And, for once in my life, I genuinely hope I'm wrong. But when I'm out and about, I must say I have a lot of concerns because the reality is COVID is still there,
Mm.
and
And I mean,
yeah.
like, we're both very positive people
Mm,
in general, but I think in a situation like this, you have to be very realistic as well because it's that serious. And I definitely have that sense as well. I know coronavirus, COVID-19 has not gone away. It's not gone away, it's still there. We still need to take precautions. So we should not in any way be rushing back to the way things were.
no, no, I totally agree with you. And even somebody I was supposed to meet on Monday contacted me and said, "Look, Eileen, I have a cold. I have, I don't have COVID. I had the test. I'm fine, but I don't want to put you at risk." And I really appreciated this person doing that,
Mm,
and I think it's what we all really need to be looking at doing. Like, I mean, for me, and I know your dad is elderly, Siobhan, but for me, it's even people around me and not putting people, like, whatever about myself, but it's people, I don't want to put anybody else at unnecessary risk. And, I think that's the mindset. Well, I feel that's the mindset we need to have. We nearly, when we're around people, is nearly to assume we have it and take the precautions to protect other people. I don't know how you feel about that, Siobhan.
yeah, and I think, as far as I know, isn't it becoming mandatory now for masks to be worn on public transport? I think
Yeah.
one of the most recent things I've heard, and I do think it is just very courteous to wear the masks. But you mentioned my father there, and I have to say, he's an 83-year-old man, and he's been great throughout the duration of lockdown and everything, and he's abided by all the rules, and he's done what he's had to do. But actually he's put together a really funny little, a lovely song about coming out of cocooning. We might share it in the links below afterwards.
Absolutely, Siobhan. I only saw it today, and honestly, I just thought it was fantastic. It was real, it was true, but as you say, it had a positive, what would you say, a positive twist. It was really lovely, and yes, absolutely, we'll share it below for anyone who wants to see it. I think it's well worth sharing.
Because I think the aim of it for him was to connect with people his own age, to kind of reach out and connect with them, people who have been cocooning, and just as well to, I suppose, even though it's been very serious and it's been very sad, also he's lost friends,
Mm.
acquaintances, people he's known, and will we truly ever know how that impacts his generation? But I think he desperately wanted to throw a little bit of light onto the whole idea of coming out of lockdown and coming out of cocooning. So the song is called Goodbye to Cocooning.
I know it's fun. Something else, Siobhan, I was just going to ask, and I'm mindful you have teenagers, you have children and teenagers. How do you instill the importance in them of, like, most kids and teenagers think they're invincible. They think we're fine, we'll never get it. But how do you instill in them the importance of protecting themselves for other people? Because I think that's really important.
Well, it is very difficult, but it's
Yeah.
like with anybody, just reminding them of the responsibilities and reminding them that it hasn't gone away.
Yes.
So we can't rush back to the way things were.
Mm,
And just to take those precautions, I have to say my teenagers are quite good for wearing their face masks, wearing their masks. And, I think when you explain these things to young people, they're a lot
yeah.
more clued in about it than we might give them credit for too. It's not easy because I know they're starting to go back to meeting groups of friends,
Yeah.
and those groups of friends are getting ever bigger. But it's all still, I mean, they're not breaking any laws, or they're not breaking any of the guidelines that are laid down at the moment. But I do think that the government needs to be very clear, very, very clear on the guidelines for all these gatherings. Because I would say my teenagers listen to the government. They listen to the guidelines that are set out there, and they're very clear. Is it 50 people outside? Is it 100 people outside? And whatever that is, then they will stick to that. But they need to hear it.
They need to hear it and to have it enforced, and
Mm.
I mean, not enforced, but confirmed for them. And I suppose what I'm thinking of there is, it's the thing you said, it's about explaining it to them. And again, we're coming back to communication, because it's explaining it, but trying not to create a huge fear environment for them either. Like, they have to live, their friends are hugely important to them, like, especially at that age. But I think it's clearly explaining what's going on and what they need to do, but not terrifying them at the same time.
And I think that's where, is in relation to communication as well, is maybe sharing stories. If you know of stories, they could be your own stories or there could be somebody else's, but sharing stories that are going to get that point home even stronger. And just one of those stories, I was home in my home place today with my father. We went to mass together,
Mm,
like we always do, and that's a very interesting experience because that's not gone back to normal. It's very, very apparent and clear when you go into a church how the relevant steps they're taking to social distance and all of those things. But it really hit me today when I saw a lady that I know not very well, but I would have known her growing up, who prior to coronavirus, she and her husband used to sit close to us in the church. And today she walked into the church on her own. She had the coronavirus, and had passed it on to her husband. She survived, he didn't.
oh gosh,
And it was just to see her walking on her own, I just thought that's the real story.
that's the real story. Yeah.
So we have to be careful. And I
Mm.
think we have to come out of lockdown slowly and carefully and create a new normal. Eileen, what would you like some of the new normal to be?
The word that just comes to me when you say that is respect, Siobhan. Because I was actually in a shop or in the petrol paying for diesel or something the other day, and somebody came right up behind me. I felt quite disrespected by them because I was maintaining the distance between the person in front of me. But I very politely just said to them, "Do you mind?" So I think it's something we need to do, is to ask. If people aren't respecting that, it's to actually ask, and not in an aggressive way, but just to say, look, do you mind, and just move back. That's very hard for a lot of people, and I find it's very hard for me too, but I think it's the new normal. That's it.
And it's communicating your needs.
Yeah.
That's what you need. And sometimes you have to communicate very clearly to protect yourself.
Yeah, and you can do that without coming across as aggressive or whatever. It's just very politely saying, "Do you
Mm.
mind?" And I think I would prefer to say that to somebody than to end up sick and saying, "I know it was when I was there," or whatever. At least
Mm.
because again, it's reminding me that I'm not just doing it for me. I'm not just asking that person to move back for me.
Yeah,
I'm thinking of the people that I'm around. And,
yeah.
you know, what's your new normal, Siobhan?
Well, there have undoubtedly been things about lockdown that I have to be honest and say I enjoyed. I enjoyed the time with family. I enjoyed doing some meditation. I enjoyed walks in the country. I got a newfound love for my own home place, my own home. So I really do want to move out of lockdown very, very slowly. And I would think for me, the new normal and how I'm going to try and approach it, or continue to approach it, is to do it slowly. What's the rush? There is
Mm.
no rush. And also just what I keep asking myself in every situation, if my children are putting pressure on me to go somewhere, or I'm thinking maybe I'll nip into the shops to do this, or I'll go over here to do that, I keep saying to myself, is this essential? Is it essential? Because if it's not essential right now, it'll be done in time. And
Mm.
if it's not life or death, it's not an emergency.
Absolutely, absolutely. And look, for all our followers and for everybody who's watching this, stay safe and stay well, and maybe let us know how you're getting on. Take care, Siobhan. Lovely seeing you today.
You too, Eileen. Take care. Bye bye.
Bye.